Long time no see, everybody. It is Dan once again from Deuce the Limit. I am back with another video. I know it has been a long hiatus. I went to Eurovision, I went to Liverpool. It was a blast. Certainly had its high highs and its low lows, which I'll get to. So thanks for sticking around to the channel and not unsubscribing and just leaving forever. I do appreciate that. But I want to talk about my experiences and what I'll probably do different next year. So let's dive in. So for the record, this year, I actually spent my first few days in Europe in Ireland. My friends and I, we traveled through Ireland, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the video because this is a Eurovision channel. So if you want to stick around for what happened in Ireland, I'll show some videos and some pictures from that. But this is Eurovision. So we actually didn't get to Liverpool until Tuesday. We got there around Tuesday afternoon, got settled into our flat, which was probably midway up the city. I'd say we were about maybe a mile and a half, 2 miles away from the arena, about a 10-minute walk. A few weeks before, I kind of decided I'm going all the way there. There are floor seats available for like $300. And I'm like, when am I going to go to Liverpool again? When am I going to get a chance to see Loreen at Eurovision again? So I talked to some friends and said, hey, I'm buying tickets to Semi 1. They're flashing up on the website if you just keep refreshing, or just, I had it on an auto loader. And I did end up getting Semi 1 tickets for the live show. I was there. You can even see me. I'll probably put a picture up of us during Karaya's performance. And it was just an amazing show. Of course, semifinal 1 had all of those big names and it had most of your top 10. My first Eurovision song ever to see live being Queen of Kings, I think was pretty fitting because I'm always usually a Norway stan anyway. I think the results were pretty expected. Based on the songs, I preferred Serbia's song. Based on the performances, Latvia should have gone through. Latvia should have had that 10th spot. Felt like Serbia kind of under-delivered a little bit, and in the grand final as well. So the results came through. I was very sad by the fact that we lost to Azerbaijan and Malta and Latvia, the Netherlands, who, you know, once seeing the live performance, I said, all right, they're probably not going through. Semifinal 2 ended. We went over to Camp Furnace and went to Euro Club. We got to see Surrey. We got to see Sunstroke Project. I think we missed whoever was before Sunstroke Project. But you know, the place was popping, very, very busy. Day 2, we kind of spent just getting more acquainted with the city, the Eurovision Village area. I knew at 5 Marco Mengoni was going to put on a performance, and knowing that I didn't have tickets to the grand final, I wasn't going to be able to see him in the semis, so the only way I would be able to see him would be in Eurovision Village, and he put on a phenomenal show. Due Vitae just grew on me more and more, and now I'd say it might even be in my top 3 at this point. It may have bumped out Who the Hell is Edgar? I don't know. I still listen to that song. I still love it all the time. And then Wednesday night, again, was a little more mellow. I'll talk more about it at the Ireland part of this video. I struggled to sleep a lot. And at first I thought it was jet lag, but I'll elaborate more on that later. So by the time we got to Thursday, it was time for Semi 2. We only had afternoon tickets to this one. We didn't have live, but that didn't matter to us. We still got there at a reasonable time. We got there at a reasonable time. We were actually really far back in the line, but it's almost a strategy, I think, that people started to figure out, was that when they opened the doors for everyone waiting for floor entrance on the other side of the building, they also would just open it to everyone on the side for the special packages and all that stuff. So we were in the back of the line of the floor, but we still were able to go straight into the front entrance instead of the back entrance they had everyone line up for. And we just went right in and went right down. We were right against the gate. We couldn't really see the runway. So when it got to Armenia, we couldn't see anything. That was the one performance where we were looking back at just the backside of that giant platform, slanted platform. Couldn't see anything during that one. But otherwise, we had phenomenal seats for it. It was at that moment I knew, and I have to apologize to everyone for all the Denmark guarantees I made on this channel. I was so certain that that song was going to get through, but there was a lot working against me. One, in nearly, I think in the last 4 or 5 years, one of the 4 openers and closers didn't qualify. Finland, Australia, and Norway. And the last one is Denmark. If you had to pick 4 from one of those that isn't going to qualify, I think 95% of the Eurovision audience would say, well, then Denmark's obviously out. They brought this giant piece, and I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. They're going to be using it. He's going to be going through over and over again. It's going to be rotating, change. And they used it like once, and then for the rest of the song, it just wasn't used at all. It was just sitting there. So I thought that was a really strange decision. I also think ditching the dancers was a mistake. I thought they were great. A great addition to help bring something a little more energetic and a lot more movement to the performance. And then the vocals, it's, he couldn't hit the falsettos, whether that was fatigue or whether it was just too difficult of a song or too difficult of a note. Because you got to remember, when he's, his YouTube fame that he's garnered over this time, he's just singing into a microphone. Well, he can polish those vocals before he posts it. He can take into account the auto tune and really polish it to make it perfect. And he can also do as many takes as he wants, right? He can do 50 takes until he gets it perfect and then upload it. I'm not saying he's using auto tune or not in his videos. He has that option to just keep doing it until he gets it all right. You don't get that option at Eurovision. You got to be great right then and there. I did a Eurovision semifinal 2 prediction video. But I'll post a picture after seeing it live, semi 2, and then watching later on TV, semi 2, who I thought was going to qualify. And I put Denmark in there as the 10th spot. And I think that was just me trying to make myself believe it was going to happen so that I could not have to admit I was completely wrong about it. So that was the only one I got wrong. I got the other 9 right. So when they announced Albania, I was like, oh, I'm 0 for 1. And then they announced the other 9 countries and I had all of them except Denmark. And I was like, okay, well, I wasn't too far off. I thought Georgia not qualifying wasn't a shock. I think a lot of people were surprised by it. But at the end of the day, Georgia and Spain suffered the same fate. You can have great vocals. You can have great staging. Some people debatable on whether the staging was truly great or not. I don't think it was intuitive or innovative or anything, but it was still very pretty to look at, both Spain and Georgia. If the song is not catchy immediately, if it can't captivate people in the first listen, it will not succeed. That's just it. 99 times out of 100, it's just not going to work. We are a small vocal minority when it comes to Eurovision. So semifinal 2, we actually tried to watch it at, I think it was a chain restaurant. I don't even remember what it was called. I'm going to try and look it up. And the way they made it seem was they had this huge board out front and all of these, different Eurovision related events. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. They're going to have a viewing of semi 2. We'll just go here. We were looking for a place to watch it publicly. There's a lot of TVs in this place. And we're constantly asking, like, which TVs is it going to be on? Well, it's not going to be on all of them. It's only going to be on some of them. So they pointed us at this TV. Then they pointed us at a TV in the other room. So we go over there. Then they said, no, it's going to be in this one. So we come back. Then at 7:45, 15 minutes before semi 2 even starts, karaoke guy is like setting up, and it's like, who wants to sing karaoke? And those of us that were in there to watch Eurovision were like, are you for real, dude? So I think there was a bit of a disconnect, understanding that they wanted to pull people in for Eurovision, but not quite understanding that we want to actually watch Eurovision during Eurovision. Why are you offering karaoke 15 minutes before it starts? There was a lady in a booth across from us or something who came over and was like, look, if they don't get this figured out in the next 5 minutes, we're going around the corner to another place I know, so just come follow us. So we were like, okay, good. So we have a backup plan, because it wasn't even on the TVs until about 3 minutes before, and we're like, what are you doing? So that was a little frustrating, but hey, we got through it. They turned it on, the volume was fine, everything was great. Then Friday came, and that's when my highs pretty much had ended for the rest of my trip. Started to feel groggy. I was just exhausted. My friends were out doing more sightseeing and stuff, and I was like, I'll just rest up for tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to be at the Eurovision Village all day, and seeing all the acts, and I want to see Brooke perform, and I know you're not allowed to leave once you go, so I want to go for the whole day. And then I wake up Saturday and I'm even more tired and more groggy and more just like can't move. So eventually I did try to go down to the Eurovision Village for, I think, the Vanga Boys and I forget her name, the girl from Steps, because I wanted to see them. And I was there, but I didn't have a voice. I couldn't talk. And my throat was just not letting me talk at all. So I was basically just standing there like a zombie. And that was one of the lowest points of the whole trip for me. because everyone is dancing and singing along to all these Venga Boys songs, and I am just like miserable because I want to sing along too, but I have no energy, no voice. It felt awful. So eventually I just leave. I just tell my friends like, hey, I'm gonna go watch the final alone in our flat, which is not how I expected my Eurovision grand final to be, in Liverpool. But that was the reality of what had happened. And, you know, at least the result for me was preferred. I wanted Laureen over Karia. I preferred it. I wanted her to win between the two. The next morning, waking up, we were, pretty much packed on our way. We had to catch a bus to Manchester, and then a flight to Iceland, and then a flight from Iceland back to Baltimore. And that was probably one of the worst days of my life, I think. I was full-fledged sick. My nose never stopped running the entire day. I was wearing a mask, doing everything I could to prevent getting other people sick, but it was, probably inevitable that I infected a lot of people. Yes, I said infected because you know what happens next. My friends tested the next day because they were feeling sick, and they were like, it's COVID. And I'm like, wonder where they got that from. So I went and got tested. I was an absolute wreck. When I went to the doctors, I also had 2 ear infections because my eardrums had ruptured from the pressure of being in an airplane for 8 hours. So on top of not being able to talk, not being able to really eat for 3 days because my throat was so sore, then I had that, and it was, it was pretty terrible. So that's pretty much where I've been. That was my month of May, was Europe, COVID. That's it. So that was my first Eurovision experience. First is the worst, second time is the best, right? That's the saying. So my next Eurovision in Sweden should be the best Eurovision, hopefully. One thing I'm definitely going to do is get my own room. I think I need that space to decompress. I think just being around people constantly is something, well, obviously not used to. I live alone. I've lived alone for 10 plus years now, I think 11 years almost. So I'm just not used to being around people 24/7 essentially, and not really having a space that I can kind of retreat to. This is my vacation. This is my trip all the way to Europe. I should really, make it count the same way that I did by buying a semifinal 1 ticket, right? Like I did that because I'm here. Let's do it. Let's live, treat yourself. Let's live your best life. That was pretty much my trip to Liverpool. I probably left out some things here and there. I may put up some videos as well during this video that you may have seen. So if you want to leave this video now, that's fine. Talk about Ireland a little bit. So we flew into Dublin. We took a walking tour of Dublin. We also went to, I forget the name of it. I'm going to post the name and put some pictures up of it because I just forget the name of it and I'm drawing a blank. But we did that like day 1. So I'm a zombie because I did not sleep on the plane. Then we get back to the hotel. We get settled in. We get our bed set up, all that stuff. I don't understand this fascination of Europe or at least Ireland hotels taking a sheet, and then the blanket is put into the sheet and zipped up so that if you wanted to take off just the blanket, you can't. You have to take off the sheet and the blanket. It's really uncomfortable. I don't understand why we do that. There was AC at our hotel, but it auto turned off and would not turn on unless you got up and turned it on. And it also did not get very cold at all. So if it turned itself off because it got to its set temperature and you fell asleep, well, eventually you're going to wake up because it's going to be like 100 degrees with 3 people in a pretty small room. So you wake up and you do that, and then da-da-da-da-da-da. Some of the hotels didn't have AC, which is, again, these are expected things. I get it. This is the UK and Ireland. This is what they do. But a rough sleeping period for me in Europe. I really, really struggled to get a good night's sleep, really the entire trip. So it was some of the highs, though. The first thing we did, one thing I really, really wanted to do going to Ireland was I wanted to see the Cliffs of Moher. That was what we did, I think, on day number 2 before we went to Galway. So we went to the cliffs. We actually went I guess there's like 2 ways you can go. You can kind of go like the main walking trail, and then you can go back towards the sheep, and then kind of like back down like a dirt path. So we went the dirt pathway, found some really cool spots. I actually did end up taking a path that walked all the way down to the... All aboard. to the water because I wanted to say that I did it, that I actually climbed the cliffs of Moher, which, you know, was pretty cool. It wasn't pretty cool when I got to the bottom, exhausted, looked up and was like, oh, I have to go back up now. My friends were nice enough to wait for me as well, to let me do it. So I kind of, like, you know, put a little extra effort into it. Didn't bring any water at all. So when I got to the top, luckily, there was a woman who had a bottle and let me, you know, drink some of it before making the long walk back to like the gift shop area and all that to actually buy some water. So I didn't think it all through, but still felt good to just do it. So then, of course, we went to Galway. We walked around Galway. I was still like playing catch up on sleep. So when we started to go to bars and stuff, I kind of just dipped out, went to try and sleep, didn't get any sleep. That was a recurring theme. Then we went to, you know, I think the next day was the Dingle Peninsula. And then we went up this like spooky mountain road. I don't remember what it's called. I'll put the name up. We did that. Had a lovely lunch in Dingle, in the small town. And then we ended in Killarney, I think. And we stayed there for a night. Yeah, and then we kind of circled back to Dublin for one final day. We did the Guinness factory, which was super cool. And I think then we just did like dinner at a standard Irish pub. There was a guy playing music. He was super friendly. And then that was it. Then we headed back to our hotel in preparation for Liverpool and Eurovision. Special thank you to Matt, who was our chauffeur during that entire duration. Yes, we saw all of those things in like 4 days. Matt had mapped out like this perfect trip to basically whirlwind Ireland, and he offered to drive, and we were obviously not going to say, oh no, I want to drive on the wrong side of the road and potentially kill us. So he did not kill us. He did not crash. He was a perfect driver and understood how it worked being on the opposite side of the road. And I just kind of sat there in a vegetative state in the passenger seat for most of it. Special thanks to him and Sherry for putting up with me being basically a brick that they just kind of carried around during the whole duration. If you are from Sweden or have been to Sweden and have any thoughts on like, these are the best hotels to stay in because they're the most comfortable and quietest and have AC, please drop them in the comments below because I would love to know who they are and I will definitely stay there. So anyway, thanks guys. I'm hoping to do some more videos. I don't know what kind of topics I'm going to cover because it's the off season. So if you have any ideas below, go ahead and post them. Maybe I'll do some like, I don't know, my favorite 10 songs I'm listening to right now. Since we all love Eurovision, maybe you'll like some of these other songs. I don't know. I'm going to try to redo some graphics and like my little intro video and stuff too. So next season, we'll be back. We'll be better than ever. I'll try to do things in the meantime. But yeah, thanks for sticking with the channel. Appreciate it.